Tonight, fallout from Premier Andrew Furey's surprise resignation yesterday and questions about what's next.
So who will replace Premier Andrew Furey? Well, some Liberals are already floating their names as potential successors.
I consider politics, just like in life, as a series of windows, right? So now we have another window of opportunity for somebody else to step up.
I'm Terry Roberts. I'll have that story coming up.
For the first time in 10 years, the East Coast Music Awards are coming back to St. John's. Coming up, I'll tell you all about it.
This is CBC Here and Now.
Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. We begin tonight with reaction to Premier Andrew Furey's resignation yesterday. And as Here and Now's Terry Roberts reports, the Liberals are quickly shifting to what comes next.
Andrew Furey's unexpected announcement yesterday has upended this province's political landscape, and the fallout has forced one Liberal MHA to hit the pause button on a plan to attempt a leap into federal politics. Housing Minister John Abbott was set to make a big announcement this afternoon that he would seek the nomination to run for the Liberals in the upcoming federal election in the new St. John's area riding of Cape Spear. Abbott is a big supporter of federal Liberal leadership contender Mark Carney, but his foray into federal politics is now on hold. Abbott told me this morning he's seriously considering another run at the Premier's office. Abbott and Furey faced off in 2020 for the Liberal leadership. Abbott came up short, but was later elected in St. John's East, Kitty Vitty. John Abbott is not the only Liberal caucus member dipping his toes. I also spoke to another John today, Health Minister John Hogan, who's in Ireland. He told me he's also seriously considering a leadership bid. Hogan played a big role in Furey's 2020 leadership campaign. He says he would not have entered the political arena if it weren't for Furey's encouragement. But Hogan has 2 young children and understands that political leadership can be all-consuming. He says he'll carefully weigh the pros and cons in the coming days.
The impact of his leadership will be seen for generations in Newfoundland and Labrador.
Siobhan Cody is the Deputy Premier and Minister of Finance. She's also not ruling out a leadership bid.
Let me take a few days, obviously. I think there will be a lot of people who will think about this over the next number of days. There are a lot of leaders in our caucus, and there are a lot of leaders in the community who might want to step up as well.
So we have a great opportunity for somebody to step up and try to continue to push the province forward.
The Liberal Party Executive Board will meet this evening to begin preparations for a leadership contest. What kind of time frame are you looking at?
So no answers for you on that right now. That will come in the coming days, but we will be sure to have a process that's fair, equitable, that's able to reach as many people across the province. Anybody that's interested should be able to raise up their hand and at least submit their nomination papers for the leadership process. That will take time to roll out, but we will get there sooner rather than later.
Despite this shakeup, the party president says the Liberals are in a good position, both financially and from an election readiness standpoint. But the number one priority right now, she says, is selecting a new leader. Terry Roberts, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, at St. John's City Hall, Mayor Danny Breen reacted to the Premier's resignation during a council meeting last night. Breen says the relationship between the two governments is an important one, and Furey's premiership will have a lasting effect on the capital city.
There's some changes that are going to be seen into the future. I mean, if you look at a new penitentiary that's going to be built here, a new hospital, just a mental health and addiction center that's going to be opening in a couple of months. I think it's those policy decisions that they made will have a lasting impact on the city.
And other municipal leaders are also offering their thoughts on Furey stepping down, including what that will mean for ongoing projects that were started under the current Liberal government. Here Now's Troy Turner reports.
Like most of the province, the people here in Grand Falls, Windsor are surprised by the resignation of Premier Andrew Furey. Mayor Barry Manuel says he'll miss the accessibility the Premier provided to his office and that he'll leave big shoes to fill.
I felt that he was someone who really wanted to find solutions, and he showed that, I think, in his speeches, and that when he spoke from the heart.
Manuel has worked with many provincial leaders in his 12 years on council, but Fury stands out to him.
He was someone who was unique to the position, I thought, because he would reach out to me unsolicited at times. And he always wanted to know how things were going, whether or not we wanted any issue that was needed to be addressed.
One of the issues council and the province is working on hand in hand is the town's new regional community centre. Still in its early stages, the multi-sports complex will feature 2 ice surfaces, a pool, and other recreational space. And Manuel hopes that a change in leadership won't mean a change in plans.
We're hoping for the site preparation to begin in 2026, and then again it would be a phased approach from there. I mean, we've gotten good reception not only from the Premier but from Transportation Minister Mr. Hutton and others. So government as a whole has been very receptive, and we don't expect that to change.
About 100 kilometers east in Gander, the town has been working with the province on several issues, including its concerns over the plans to move the air ambulance system out of Central.
I've been comfortable with the position that the Premier has been taking as he got more and more directly engaged in this, and his commitment that there is a much more substantial role for Gander in his view in air ambulance going forward.
Mayor Percy Farwell hopes Fury's successor will understand the town's position when it comes to the town's role in a new integrated ambulance system.
I have to have confidence that there's that the administration that he led has come to certain realizations and has understandings of issues under his leadership that they perhaps wouldn't have had otherwise.
Farwell, too, has praise for Fury and respect for his decision.
He's probably accomplished more in that brief tenure than a lot of others have in much longer tenures. And he recognized the right time to come in. He's probably recognizing the right time, certainly for him personally, to leave.
Both mayors say they will continue to bend the ear of the Premier as he transitions out of politics and aim to maintain the same type of relationship with Andrew Fury's successor. Troy Turner, CBC News, Gander.
And the provincial opposition leader offered some well wishes to the outgoing premier today. Tony Wakeham met with reporters to speak about Fury's departure, and he didn't mince words when asked about U.S. President Donald Trump.
We're now complicated a little more by the fact that we have a president in the United States who is acting like a dictator and wants to impose tariffs on the country, and that will have a significant impact, or could have a significant impact, on our province. So it's very important as a province, as a country, that we lay out a plan on how we deal with them. And I have a message to the dictator in the United States right now, that we have been here as a country, as a province before him. We will continue to be here and survive during him, and we will continue to be here as a province and a country after him.
Well, in other news, now that government has lowered the age of eligibility for breast cancer screening to 40, one advocacy group says the province should look at expanding screening for other cancers as well. The Canadian Cancer Society says all other Canadian provinces, Atlantic Canadian provinces rather, offer at-home screening kits for HPV, the virus that causes cervical cancer. Right now, the only way to test for HPV in this province is through a pap test. Advocate Heather Mulligan says home tests are simple and effective. Just swab a sample and pop it in the mail.
Especially when we consider our rural and remote population of the province. We've seen other provinces step up and provide those tools. Prince Edward Island, for example, was the first province in Canada to make the switch from pap test to HPV. We'd like to see Newfoundland and Labrador join its sister provinces. It would be complemented by its already robust vaccination approach to HPV.
Well, the East Coast Music Awards will return to this province this spring for the first time in 10 years. And during an event in St. John's today, the event was kicked off with some news about what's to come. Maddie Ryan reports.
Hello and welcome to the 2025 ECMA press conference.
For the first time in a decade, the East Coast Music Awards will come back to St. John's with a 5-day event starting on May 7th. But the countdown to it already started today at the Rock House on George Street. It's another event on the agenda in an already busy summer for the city.
This is going to be a year when we can honestly say St. John's is going to be on wheels for the whole summer.
If I had known this announcement was today and that these were coming in May, perhaps I would have reconsidered yesterday.
Over 20 award nominees from this province were announced, including pop artist Summer Bennett and St. John's folk duo Quote the Raven.
You make me a believer. I feel like you can never quite know that this is going to happen, and I know that sounds really cliche and everyone says that, but it's so true. And there's so many amazing musicians who release such incredible projects. So to just be recognized by the community is like, you can't want much more than that, truly.
We collaborate with so many East Coast musicians and East Coast artists and producers and videographers and stuff like that it feels like, you know, that nomination is not just ours, it's a part of the whole scene.
Today's event also gave a little taste of what's to come during the awards gala on May 11th, which will feature performances by local favorites like Shani Ganuk, Kelly Loader, Mick Davis and Finn Love, and the Ennis Sisters.
They say you're a people pleaser, just not enough for me.
Maddie Ryan, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, to the West Coast now, where one of the largest and longest-running winter carnivals in Atlantic Canada is celebrated. As Here and Now's Colleen Connors tells us, after more than 50 years, Corner Brook's Winter Carnival continues to grow.
It's halfway through 10 days of fun. St. Mary's Church annual chicken dinner, with nearly 100 dining in, 60 takeout. A huge fundraiser for the church and a staple of Winter Carnival. And its mascot of 31 years.
Well, I think the big thing, too, is like we're enjoying here tonight at St. Mary's, is the camaraderie and the socializing and getting together. And I believe from what I've been hearing from people over the years, that's the one thing that really strikes that really nice chord, is the getting together and sharing stories and just having a cup of tea or go to a show, those nice things of being a community as one.
This is one of a dozen meals in church basements across the city that Leaf and the Carnival Committee attend, along with his sidekick, Maddie.
I think they should know that it's always going to be a fun time, even if it's like pouring rain or a snow squall. They should always know it's going to be a great time.
The Corner Brook Winter Carnival is celebrating its 52nd year, with outdoor parties in the park, skiing and snowshoeing events, and things like Family Feud, variety shows, jigs dinners, and dog shows. The chair says people may be surprised to know the carnival keeps growing.
If that's ever possible, we have more events, we have more people showing up at the events, and I'm hoping that Corner Brook will start to realize you have to start getting your tickets early because you're going to be disappointed. And we're seeing that over and over again for like the mixtapes dance, for the hottest man, the not so newlywed.
And the spirit is for all ages. Are you both wearing Corner Brook Winter Carnival earrings?
We are.
Yes, we are. Oh my God, little sweaters. Oh, you got
From last year.
Oh.
And then these are the ones for this year.
With these two social media ambassadors covering off every event with a snap and post.
I think it also helps kind of document what we've been through the years, because I think it's cool to look back on too, like to really see the experiences from past years and see how they line up, what we do differently. It's cool to see that part too.
And I also feel like because we're the youth doing social media posts, it helps to show youth people that, you know, it is fun to be involved in Winter Carnival. There's lots to do for everyone.
The fun doesn't stop here at St. Mary's Church basement. There's trivia night, carnival bingo, and a fish fry on the schedule, with a beautiful closing ceremony slated for Sunday. Colleen Connors, CBC News, Corner Brook.
Well, it's certainly starting to feel a little bit more wintry this evening, especially for parts of the West Coast. That is not the case in the east as we continue to see some warmer air. We do have a cool down on the way, though. That will happen tomorrow for most of the province. Warming right back up, though, as we head into Friday. I'll get into all the details a little later.
Well, questions still remain around the new Churchill Falls deal after Premier Andrew Furey's resignation. The MOU with Quebec was signed at the end of last year, but formal contracts have yet to be reached. Furey spoke with reporters about the deal's future earlier today.
Just before I came here today, Premier Legault and I chatted, and we both see this as a historic moment for the province of Newfoundland and Labrador and for Quebec. In addition to the economics and the fiscal agreement, there is a rebuilding of a relationship that has occurred. I do believe that the MOU is not, sometimes MOUs are light. This is a very prescriptive MOU, so the roadmap is there. I assured him that we've set the negotiating team, we've set the oversight team, and now it's really a lot of heavy lifting by the lawyers. So, you know, the commodity of the relationship will live on beyond two premiers, but it was very important to get it over the finish line to where we are today.
That there's worry in Quebec of a leadership change and what that could mean to this agreement.
I tried to reassure him that's not the case. We brought it to the House of Assembly. The MOU is in black and white for everybody to see. There has been public debate. There's been a debate in the House of Assembly, and now we're moving forward to definitive agreements. So the trajectory has not changed at all. In fact, one could argue that it would be strengthened with a new premier. The roadmap is there, the prescription is there, the oversight is there, the structure is there. That's why I feel like I can leave right now.
There's some pretty important elements to figure out for these definitive agreements, though. There's a risk that things don't go right. And how much does that weigh on you? Did that weigh on you when making this decision?
Of course that weighed on me, but I mean, there's going to be risk at any particular moment in time in this negotiation. It's very complex. It's not just one agreement, it is multiple different agreements, and that can take some time. So it's the balance of what is best for the province, what is best for that electoral timing, which was the most important piece of my decision, and my family. So there's always going to be risk. There's never going to be a moment when a premier decides or a leader decides to leave that there's not going to be a risk involved in some file somewhere. But I do believe that the structure that we put in place, the prescription that is very definitive in that MOU, will be captured in definitive agreement.
Furey stepping down, of course, means a change of leadership in the province, and guests on CBC Radio's The Signal discussed what kind of leadership they would like to see next.
It's time for leadership. It's time for someone who's going to be disruptive, who's going to take the bull by the horns, and we need someone who's not afraid to get their hands dirty, is not afraid to do the heavy lifting, and is not going to say, listen, I really wanted this, but now that I see how difficult it is, I'm going to take a pass. We need more.
John Harris, less than a minute.
Yeah, I think all in all, like what we don't need is a savior to come in and change the whole system, but we need everyday people to start fighting for their rights. It's just the everyday people. You know, if you're care about something, get politically involved. And because what we're seeing is not only a widening gulf between the United States and Canada, but also a widening gap between the rich and the poor. And I think that young people need to get up and start fighting for equality.
Just jump back on a couple different things. This is an exciting time to be a Liberal, believe it or not. These leadership debates bring about new ideas, like we've seen federally. We're having a discussion on defence, which is not something that Liberals typically talk about and things like that. Like new ideas on healthcare. This is the time when we can get this kind of fresh perspective that Eugene's talking about. We can get these people in. We know we have these in the party. We know how we have a broad base of experience, and now's the time to get involved. I'm personally excited. We all have our things we want to see. I just say to the next leader, whoever it may be, pick your battles. You got to be laser focused on the things that the Furey government is focused on. Healthcare is still a sticking point. Economic development, retention of people, the demographic crisis. That's your four big items you got to keep hitting on, right? They're all tied together. We may all disagree about how to fix those things, but those are the things to pick on.
Yeah, I think there's good people in all parties, and it's just about taking action now. We see lots happening in our province, and we have capable people in our community who are, able to take on this role, whether they're, been in politics for a while or not. Now's the time to take action. So I really encourage anybody, whether that's seeking political leadership or just getting involved, that now's a really good time to get your voice out there.
Ashley, here in the east, the rain has been relentless today.
It certainly has. And depending on where you are, some people have seen more than others. Let's take a look at the so far, from what I can gather from some of the model or from some of the gauges there, St. Lawrence has picked up 54 millimeters of rain. So the Burin Peninsula has seen the most so far, 50.6 millimeters in Winterland. South Coast, though, anywhere from 30 to 40 millimeters. In St. John's, about 28 millimeters has fallen. And even towards Gander, picking up about 22 millimeters of rain. Port aux Basques at about 14. So most of the heavy rain is done for now, but it is still raining and still blowing out there right now in St. John's. Those winds are gusting as high as 102 kilometers per hour right now, with the temperature around 6 degrees. And we will continue to see these strong winds, at least for the next couple of hours. At least till we get to about the 9 o'clock hour. And then after that, the winds will ease a little bit, but they're still going to stay strong as we head through the overnight. By the time we get into tomorrow morning, though, we will see those winds ease. And you'll note those winds will shift. So much cooler temperatures will move in, which means all of this rain and wet surfaces will turn to ice. So you can see here most of the Avalon now seeing those winds gusting upwards of 100 kilometers per hour. So Environment Canada does have a storm surge warning in effect for the southern areas of the Avalon and parts of the Burin Peninsula. So right now around high tide and those strong winds leading to higher than normal water levels. And then by the time we get into tomorrow morning, high tide for the northeast coast, we're looking at between 4:30 and about 8:30 tomorrow morning. You're looking at the potential for some minor coastal flooding as well, so keep that in mind. Taking a look at the situation right now, the heaviest rain is pushing north now over. At this point, looks like the just heading towards the Bonavista Vista Peninsula. And then we've got that cold air wrapping around to the west, and temperatures are dropping, which is changing that rain over to snow. And that will continue to work its way, that colder air continue to work its way east as we head through tonight. And it will change that rain that we're seeing through parts of central over to snow. And by the time we get to about midnight, we should start to see that taper off. Now, Environment Canada still has a number of warnings in place, those winter storm warnings extending from the Northern Peninsula east through to Grand Falls, Windsor. And then, again, those wind warnings for Bonavista North, Bonavista Peninsula, Southern Avalon, and St. John's and vicinity. And then the rainfall warning still very much in place. Those should end as we head through tonight. Now, this snowfall warning here for Port aux Basques and the Burgeo area, that is for tomorrow, tomorrow night in particular, as our next system moves in. But we'll talk about that a little later. Blowing snow advisories in place for the Northern Peninsula West and then southeastern portions of Labrador. You will see that end as we head through tonight. And that's as the system continues to move offshore. We'll see those winds, like I said, ease, but most of us will see that rain change over to snow. We may even see that happen on the Avalon as well by the time we get into tomorrow morning before that ends altogether. And then a fairly quiet day for the most part. Now, the West Coast, you'll likely still see a few flurries in the mix, but yeah, there's not much left to fall as far as that rain goes. You may pick, with some of that heavier rain, you may pick up another 10 plus millimeters of rain, but that's about it. And then as far as the snowfall goes, about 5 to 10 in some of the heaviest snow expected to fall. Now, as your temperatures drop, though, it may take a little while for it to stick, but eventually it will. Now, as far as tomorrow goes, we will see the day improve. It should be an actually beautiful afternoon tomorrow for most of us. But as far as the temperatures go, we'll sit around the 0 degree mark in the east, otherwise minus single digits. So again, if untreated surfaces, if you haven't put any salt down, things will be slippery tomorrow. Winds will still be a bit breezy out of the west, around 40 to 60 kilometers per hour, but those winds for the eastern half of the island will be around 20 to 40 kilometers per hour. Now, Labrador, you are going to continue to see some sunshine through the day tomorrow. Actually, a lovely day with some flurries moving in for Lab City as the day goes on. But overall, your temperatures will sit in the -8 to -17 degree range. I'll get into long-range forecast because another warm-up coming as we head into Friday a little later.
Great. Thank you, Ashley. Well, Monday marked the 3rd anniversary of Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. And in conversation on CBC Radio's The Signal earlier this week, some Ukrainians who arrived in this province after fleeing the war say what's happening today between the U.S. and Canada feels all too familiar.
The U.S. president has floated certain things like the idea of pulling troops out of Europe.
When and you look jokes about 51st.
Yeah,
state.
jokes.
Well,
yes, exactly. Which is we did a show just on Friday about that.
And we had I don't believe in the war between USA and Canada, but let's be honest, the same jokes was in Ukraine 15 years
nobody
ago.
Believes, yeah.
And nobody believes.
And I mean, just to imagine, if that were to happen to us here in Canada, it's the same experience as what people in Ukraine are dealing with.
I don't want somebody feel that.
It's no, absolutely. You wouldn't wish that on your worst enemy. Exactly. It's as unfathomable as that might be for Canadians to imagine this, is exactly the same in Ukraine.
Yesterday, I talked to my friend and I said, they just don't understand what the war is. They just don't understand. And they said, and I'm so happy that they don't understand. I don't want somebody to feel that and to understand that.
Understand that 40 million people woke up in the morning and understand that the war coming in their country, their family.
Everything changed.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's okay.
Go
ahead.
I just wanted to add that after that, Ukrainians don't perceive this joke of Trump that is as a 51st state as a joke.
Yeah.
Ukrainians know that maybe it's not a joke.
It's not a joke.
Yes.
It's a future.
Yeah.
Yes, it's very possible.
Yeah, so right away for the Ukrainian diaspora, that mention of that 51st state thing did not, for others say, oh, he's musing, it's a joke. It's
for us, it's not.
Yeah, such a deja vu feeling, really. When you hear your neighbors say something like that, and it was unnerving for sure.
Well, women aged 40 and above can now be screened for breast cancer in this province. Last week, government lowered the age of eligibility from 50 to 40. It means an additional 34,000 women have the option of being tested. The hope is that will lead to more early detection of cancer and, in turn, better outcomes. Joining me now from Halifax is Heather Mulligan with the Canadian Cancer Society. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
So we last spoke back in May when government first announced it was lowering the age of eligibility for breast cancer screening. And now the Health Authority is ready to start making those appointments. The Canadian Cancer Society recommended this change. Can you talk about why women should start getting screened when they turn 40?
You know, we are absolutely thrilled to see the government of Newfoundland and Labrador not only act on a recommendation, but to implement and roll out early breast cancer screening. Newfoundland and Labrador is now joining its sister provinces where breast cancer screening is available to women starting at age 40. It's important for people to better protect themselves, better understand their own health by having access to these screening tools. Breast cancer screening allows women to not only monitor and maintain their breast health over time, but also identify breast cancer at its earliest stages when it's most treatable.
When you catch breast cancer early, what kind of a difference can it make to outcomes and to survivability?
We've seen tremendous progress when it comes to treatment of breast cancer. And that's thanks in part not only to our research community, but to our health system in responding nimbly to women and to people with breast tissue that requires care. What we do know is that early stage cancer does offer a variety of different treatment options, whether it be radiation or chemotherapy or other treatments. What that means for the patient is, first and foremost, access to care quickly. It means that they're able to get the treatment, which may also include, as an example, oral therapies, much less radiation time or chemotherapy time. But what it also means is that it's less time away from work, less time away from their family, less time away from their community when accessing that care, because an earlier staged cancer is easier to treat. It has a whole host of different treatment options versus a later stage, which may be more invasive and it will require longer lengths to stay and more health human resources to treat.
Mm-hmm. And how prevalent is breast cancer among women between 40 and 50?
Well, what we know is that, you know, across Canada, 1 in 8 women will be diagnosed with breast cancer in their lifetime. And more Canadians, specifically younger Canadians, are being diagnosed with cancer. 2 in 5 Canadians are going to be diagnosed at some point and receive the words, "You have cancer." Among those, 40% will be between the ages of 20 and 64. And so what we know is that, you know, as younger Canadians are being diagnosed with cancer, having cancer screening tools available to Canadians and specifically to Newfoundlanders and Labradorians is vital. And it's not just breast cancer. We're talking about other cancer screening tools like colorectal, like HPV testing, like lung cancer. And so ensuring that the full suite of tools available to Newfoundlanders and Labradorians are there so they can not only monitor and maintain their personal health, but also identify cancer at its earliest stages is vital.
What are you telling government on that front? Because they've lowered the age for breast cancer screening now. So what about colonoscopies? Should people be getting colonoscopies at a younger age than what's set now? Or are there other like cancer tests that should be done at an earlier age?
There is a variety of tools that are available. There is something called a FIT test that is often mailed and sent to people in their homes, where they're able to take a sample and send it back to health services. And that colorectal screening tool is important because it helps identify, colorectal cancer or identifies people who may have colorectal cancer. Newfoundland and Labrador, we've learned, has some of the highest rates in colorectal cancer in Canada, but has some of the lowest screening rates, with only 20% of tests being returned. And so there is a gap there to bring Newfoundland and Labrador up, bring those screening numbers up, but also to expand colorectal screening options. As an example, we've been asking the government of Newfoundland and Labrador to consider lowering the start age for colorectal cancer to 45. There's also other tools that are available that we can put directly into the hands of Newfoundlanders and Labradorians. As example, human papillomavirus, HPV, will impact nearly 70 to 75% of sexually active Canadians. And it is tied to not only cervical cancer, but a variety of other cancers. And so screening for HPV is vital. Right now in Newfoundland and Labrador, Pap tests are the predominant way that people are being screened for cervical cancer. But we would also like to see government make that switch from Pap tests to human papillomavirus testing so that Newfoundland and Labradorians have cancer screening tools in their home that they can self-sample and return to Health Services Newfoundland and Labrador to better understand their own risks.
So how do those tests work?
Yeah. So when it comes to the HPV, as an example, there are approved kits here in Canada where you can do your own swab test in the comfort of your own home and send the sample back to the lab to be screened for HPV, which again is tied to cervical cancer and other cancers as well. A FIT test is collecting a stool sample and sending it back to identify your risk. And these are tools in the hands of Newfoundlanders and Labradorians in their homes, and then returned back to Health Services Newfoundland and Labrador. And so these are examples, two very tangible examples of cancer screening directly in the hands of people, should they be made available.
All right, Heather Mulligan, really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for this.
Thank you.
Rising measles cases here in Canada have health officials urging anyone who isn't vaccinated to do so. More than 90 cases have been confirmed this year, and it's putting the country on pace for the highest numbers in years. The CBC's Jennifer Yoon reports.
In this southwestern Ontario community, a measles vaccination campaign to convince those who are hesitant. At least 68 people in the area are sick with the highly contagious disease. Officials say most of those ill haven't been vaccinated.
I think the message is getting out there, but not quite as effectively as we would hope.
Surge in cases is linked to community settings like schools and grocery stores, but most are being traced back to two events: a wedding in New Brunswick and a conference in Quebec. Attendees who had contracted measles abroad infected several people. They in turn went home and infected others. That has led to outbreaks in Quebec, Ontario, and Manitoba. Separately, there are two other cases in BC, residents returning home from Thailand.
You combine poor vaccination rate with a disease that is highly communicable, like measles. Really, no infection is as infectious.
The disease was declared eradicated in Canada in 1998, but so far this year, 95 people have gotten sick with measles. For comparison, last year there were 147 cases total.
This measles outbreak represents the largest number of measles cases that we've experienced in Ontario since measles was declared eliminated from Canada.
Now there are fears that the disease may re-emerge more permanently.
What I would like to see is that we stop these outbreaks in their tracks so that it doesn't become entrenched in the Canadian context.
There is no cure for measles. The only defense is vaccination. And with case numbers increasing globally and spring break around the corner, Dr. Tam is imploring Canadians to get that protection, especially before traveling. Jennifer Yoon, CBC News, Toronto.
In Nova Scotia, Premier Tim Houston is charting a path forward on free trade within Canada, tabling a bill aimed at reducing interprovincial trade barriers. But will other provinces follow suit? Brett Ruskin has more on how industry leaders are reacting.
This new legislation is designed to eat away at those regulatory inconsistencies that exist right now between provinces, and it's designed to do it all in one fell swoop. So if the regulations in BC or Ontario or another province exist that are good enough for those provinces, they would be good enough for Nova Scotia, as long as those provinces also pass similar legislation so that there is free trade in both directions between Nova Scotia and other provinces. So this would drop down trade barriers and open up trade between provinces.
It will allow any goods made in other parts of Canada to be sold in Nova Scotia without further testing, without extra red tape, without any of the foolishness that's happened in the past. The same will be the case for people and service providers. Roofers, healthcare workers, teachers, other professionals and service providers who are in good standing.
This is being applauded, this is being encouraged by different business groups like the Canadian Federation for Independent Business, saying that they are looking forward to seeing more provinces sign on to this idea to pass similar legislation in those provinces to really get this idea of interprovincial free trade started. So this is really contingent on the trust existing between different provinces, trust that those regulations in another province will be good enough for your province. So we'll see if other provinces do sign on indeed in the future. Brett Ruskin, CBC News, Halifax.
Well, some Hyundai drivers are reporting paint peeling off their cars in big chunks. Even when it happens to relatively new cars, owners say getting help has been difficult. It's a problem happening around the world and specifically to white Hyundais. Ithel Musa with the Go Public team has more.
When Armando Tusi bought his brand new Hyundai Sonata in 2016, he never imagined it would look like this in less than 10 years.
It's kind of embarrassing.
Tusi says he's tried contacting Hyundai Canada and his local dealership, but he says
no one wants to take ownership, no one wants to take accountability.
According to Hyundai Canada's warranty program, paint is only covered for 3 years or 60,000 kilometers. This auto expert, who's seen photos of Tusi's car, says paint on vehicles should last much longer.
I believe the paint job should last for as long as you own the vehicle.
The culprit says this expert is likely delamination or the loss of adhesion.
The paint consists of 4 coatings, 4 layers of paint. And if they're not applied properly or if it's the incorrect formulation, one will actually separate, peel away from the other layer.
Peeling, flaking.
Hyundais with peeling paint have been reported across the globe. And curiously, nearly all of them are white, with thousands of drivers sharing their experiences online, including this Australian.
The other day, a child was walking past the car and said to their mum, what's wrong with that lady's car?
The paint on Nixon's used 2015 hatchback started to peel in late 2019, but getting help fixing it has been impossible, she says.
I don't feel protected as a consumer.
Hyundai Canada says vehicles experiencing manufacturing paint issues are extremely rare, and Hyundai vehicles undergo rigorous testing to meet industry standards. Hyundai USA is offering a white paint warranty extension for certain models. When Go Public reached out, Hyundai Canada said some models sold in Canada are also eligible. Still, owners are not just embarrassed to be seen in these vehicles, they're angry. In Quebec, a proposed class action lawsuit has been filed against the automaker, but that will take time. Ithel Musa, CBC News, Toronto.
The crab fishery in Mary's Harbor, Labrador was thriving 30 years ago. Watch this archival special Sunday at 11:30 and Monday at 7.
Well, before we get into the long-range forecast, we wanted to show you this footage from Twillingate of an iceberg.
My goodness, that is a big iceberg. It's spotted around the area of Morton's Harbor, and it's slowly made its way to Twillingate, and it's been there for the past few days.
Yeah, and of course, it's pretty early for icebergs, which we usually start to see to pop up around the province later in the spring. So this one is certainly attracting a lot of attention.
Oh, some great shots of it, too.
I love the
nice looking.
The perspective iceberg shots are my favorite.
And I wonder, could this potentially be a sign that we're going to have a good iceberg year? I guess it's really hard to know.
It's early, right?
Yeah.
It's really hard. It'll all depend on the ice situation. It'll
Not a lot of sea ice this year.
And it'll depend on the winds. There's a lot of factors that will play into whether we see a banner year or not. So time will tell.
Yes, all right. Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about the long-range forecast. Had all this rain here in the east today. Things are going to plummet temperature-wise, but then it's going to go back up again.
And then plummet again on the other side of that.
All right.
Yeah. Roller coaster. Yeah. That's all I can say. That's pretty much what it is. But yeah, we've got some more snow on the way for parts of the province. Let's take a look at what's going on for your Thursday evening. So this is that snowfall warning that Environment Canada has in effect now for the south coast. Yes, you will see some snow for the overnight, which will be fairly heavy at times before that changes over to rain Friday morning. And it'll happen fairly quickly. Now, the Northern Peninsula, you'll see snow again to start, and then that will change over to rain as well. And then across Labrador, so you're going to stay on the cold side of this at least through the afternoon. So you'll continue to see that snow as well, with most of the island portion of the province seeing rain. Now, we'll likely not see any significant rain in the east, at least until we head into the evening as the area of low pressure pulls away. So most of the action will be through central and parts of the south coast. But temperatures again on Friday will be back up well above zero, 3 to 8 degrees for most of the island. Labrador, minus 20s still for the north and west. In fact, you're going to essentially sit this one out. You may see a few flurries in the west, but that's about it. Most of the action will be for central and coastal areas of Labrador, where temperatures will sit between minus 5 and minus 11. Into the evening on Friday, we'll see that temperature drop again, but it should end. Most of the activity will end by the time we get into Saturday morning, with those temperatures in behind there falling through the day and really continuing to be quite nice through the afternoon. We'll see some more snow move in as another system moves in for Sunday. Temperatures will sit around minus 1 to minus 6 for most of the island. Northern Peninsula, minus 14, and those minus teens will extend up across Labrador. Minus 20s, the story for the north and west again. Then another warm-up comes on Sunday. So we will see temperatures back up again around 7 degrees for St. John's and eastern Newfoundland, then right back down below zero as we get into Monday, with some flurries returning in a temperature around minus 2. Now for central, you will also see that roller coaster. Temperatures will hang out around 5 degrees, back down to minus 9. But look at that drop Saturday night down to the minus teens. That will be the story for western Newfoundland as well. And then for Labrador, you are going to see your temperatures in the minus teens after Friday, a nice stretch of weather. And then for western Labrador, minus 20s, and overnight lows in the minus 30s. Warming up just a little bit by the time we get into Monday with a few flurries, and minus 16. Our weather photo of the day, speaking of Lab West, in Lab City.
My goodness.
Yeah, we've been seeing some beautiful northern lights dancing away up across Labrador, and Keith grabbed this beautiful shot.
That color is amazing. It's like a neon greeny yellow chartreuse.
Yeah, for sure.
Beautiful.
Yeah, if you have any weather photos, share them with us. We'd love to see them. You can send them to nlphotos@cbc.ca. Email them to that email address.
All right, gorgeous. Thank you so much for that. So unusual to be seeing these 7-degree days in February.
Well, we often see a warm-up. It's just when it happens.
Yeah. All right, we'll take it. Yeah. All right, that's it for us. Thank you so much for watching.
Good night.